Hello, hello, hello. What's up, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. Hello, Jean-Pierre. I can already see you in the live chat. That is always nice to see. I hope you had a fantastic weekend as usual. Beautiful moves on Bitcoin, I have to admit. Not so beautiful for some people, and much better for other people. If you hear a noise in the background, by the way, it's just my UPS. It should stop in like 30 seconds. So if you just hear a small beep, just ignore that. Anyways, once again, uh, I hope no one got tracked. Well, we expected this move. We will, of course, do a recap of the week and also the higher time frames, but we literally did this plan, which was a fake out above the highs to come all the way back down below $74,000. That was the first live stream of the year, and that was my prediction of 2026, which has fully played out right now. But before we dive into this, of course, we already have a couple of people very excited for the live stream. So am I. I do really want to outline a new higher time frame plan since the first one is now complete. Everything is good. Okay, so let's dive into everything. As usual, we will start with the announcements, which just take a couple of seconds. We will then move on to the weekly recap, and then finally we will dive into the price action, why this was fairly predictable, and hopefully you can learn from it. Okay, once again, this is not hindsight analysis, but let's dive into everything. So, as most of you know, if you want to trade with a 30% fee discount on Bitunix, the referral link will be available down in the description of the live stream. And also, if you want access to my imbalance indicator, which can offer you very good levels, like this one that we shared on last Thursday just before the drop, and actually offered the final high before that massive reversal to the downside. The link will also be available in the description of the live stream. So for the weekly recap, this week I didn't do any YouTube update just because I was busier than usual with other stuff, and overall I was quite tired. So I just didn't do any updates, but inside the Discord I did keep everyone updated. On Monday, what happened on Monday? I forgot. Oh yeah, now I remember. So if I go back over to the charts, last Sunday we were seeing a pretty strong drop on Sunday, and what I wanted to see was a fill of the gap, as you can see right there, to get the reversal on Monday and fill the CME gap, which was the main target for the week, right? I didn't care about seeing higher prices. As you can see, CME gap main target at $89,200. You can see up here that was the Sunday plan. We did have the second one, which was much less likely, but that was in case we pumped, filled the CME gap instantly, and then I would have looked for a reversal. But as you know, the more likely plan played out. We got the reversal, not on Monday, but still we got the reversal. We filled the CME gap, and then we got the reversal to the downside. So that was beautiful. Okay, on Monday, I do remember I was looking for a long position. So let's go back to Monday. That was last week. Was that Monday? Yep, that was Monday. So my support was front on by a couple of dollars, but that wasn't a problem for me because I was still aiming for the CME gap above, which was around $89,200. So pretty much around this area. We got the first pump on Monday, which ended up being a fake one. At this point, as just shown, I had missed my entry, so I just sat on the sidelines. But then price came back down. It SFP'd the low, so that was still on Monday. We SFP'd this low, and then this low as well, I think. And then we got reversal to the upside. Yes, as you can see right there, we SFP'd the first low, and we got a reversal to the upside. I was still looking for the fill of that CME gap above, but ideally I wanted to see this double bottom taken out. 86.9. This didn't play out. We got a straight pump towards the CME gap. However, if this can load, what's happening, man? Okay, so we got a straight pump to fill the CME gap just as expected. Nothing surprising. I missed my entry once again because we didn't take out that low, but we got the pump, we filled the gap. However, I didn't want to look for a short position yet because usually, as we had the FOMC on Wednesday, that was usually when you got the bull chop. Okay, so except if we got a great reaction, I wanted to sit on my hands until tomorrow, which would have been Sunday. Wednesday, sorry. If we go over to the charts, I think that was around my area. Think we did get a great reaction, but at this point, either I was asleep or I was not on the charts. But I will admit that was an acceptable first short position, as you had an imbalance on the 1 hour with a nice wick. Luckily, I was asleep or I was on the charts. I forgot what I did. However, as soon as I came to the charts, I did update you. As you can see, we were above my area, and we did have a bit of a buying climax on Binance. As you can see, we had 3 hourly imbalances right before the FOMC, and that's when I said that it looked like a classic sell the news trap. Okay, that was exactly what I said the day prior. We had the FOMC. That's when you got the bull trap. Guess what happened the next day? We got the continuation higher, we got the imbalances, and it did look like a classic sell the news trap. So from there, it was fairly simple. Not the simplest, I will have to admit. We did end up taking the high one more time. Personally, I waited for until after the FOMC to open any positions. So FOMC wasn't 5 hours, and I didn't want to be taking any positions until then. Of course, if I wanted to be more aggressive, then that was actually a very good short position in hindsight, because that was a buying climax. Stop loss on this high, I personally didn't take it. But the FOMC was done, and that's where kind of I got more clarity, and I played around these two scenarios. So I was looking at two scenarios. The first one was that we would SFP the high at $91,000 pretty much, then come back down and close the months around $89,000. Or the second one was that we would leave that high alone, dump down, consolidate until the monthly close, and then see a move higher. Okay, that's exactly what I said. So range until around 88, 87 after getting the SFP, or just drop straight down and also consolidate below 91k until the monthly close. So basically, when I took both of these scenarios, as you can see, I just expected price anyways to head back down before the monthly close. So that's why I took a first short position. As I will show you later, I took a short position, which is now in massive profits. But basically, based on these two scenarios, I had two ideas in mind. Is that I would short here with my stop loss somewhere above this imbalance, okay? And if I got stopped out, then I would short again above this high, simply because I expected the month to close down there. That was a good call. But the next day when I woke up, I thought that it would be Friday. And as it was Thursday, it made more sense to move. It made more sense to move towards $85,000. Okay, so I do have to apologize on this, because when I sent these two scenarios, I thought that it was Thursday and the next day would be Friday, which is why I expected a bit of slower moves. But the next day, when I saw the move down, and I realized that it wasn't Friday, so it was Thursday at the time, the scenario 2 looked much less likely, and 85,000 once again made more sense before we saw higher prices. Guess what happened after that? We got the move down into $85,000. I sent in the general chat that I was not interested in any long positions at 85. So someone asked me the question, and of course, after we lost 85, it was over. It was over for the bulls, and we could have got a dead cat bounce, something like this below this low. A dead cat bounce continue lower, but overall, once again, it was just over for the bulls. And luckily, I had opened a day trading short position at first, simply based on these two scenarios, as I wanted to see a drop before the monthly close. So a bit of a longer recap than usual. I do apologize for that. If you guys have any more questions, of course, let me know. But I did catch a very nice short position, which was once again supposed to be a day trade. I wanted to close it on Friday, because I thought that the next day would be Friday, but then it was Thursday. I just let it run much lower. I took a first take profit around $85,000. I think that was, I forgot. So around $85,000. And right now I am letting the rest run. And this is actually my third biggest win ever. The last thing to outline is that once again, nothing about this was unpredictable. That was literally the live stream that we did at the start of the year. I wanted to see a fake out above $94,000 to then come back down, break the low at $80,000, break the low at $74,000. The only thing that didn't hit was the timing. Okay, I was looking for a high somewhere around the end of January towards the start of Feb. So of course, getting the timing right would have been the cherry on top, but the prediction was beautiful overall. We got the move up above the highs, we got the fake out, we got the sign of weakness, and we got much lower prices. And as you guys know inside the Discord, as soon as we lost, let's go on to higher time frames. As soon as we lost $92,800, I did tell you that the first target was the yearly open, which did offer a bit of support, and then the second target was the low at $80,000, so nothing surprising there. And with all of that said, again, I'm sorry for a long recap, but there's a lot of things there was a lot of things to outline, because I'm seeing a lot of people saying that this was unpredictable, that was news based, that was manipulation, whatever. I mean, we predicted this month ago, we even shared this level last week, so I don't think I can say any more than that. Okay, now it is time to clean up my chart. I'm gonna remove this, this, I'm gonna remove this. I want to keep this. I want to keep this. I'm gonna keep that low. I think it's fine. And that would be it for my chart. I can remove the pitchfork. And the rest should be fine. So, hello Nicholas. I hope you're doing well. Very good recap. That was an interesting week. Thank you. What do you think about not filling the 12-hour imbalance at 93.5? 12-hour imbalance at 93.5. Well, as mentioned in the YouTube update, the one that we did last week, so when price was down there, I did tell you that I didn't expect price to take out these highs. And if you take these highs, as you can see, they're below the imbalance at $93,500. If I go on the 12-hour, as you can see, you have the highs and you have the imbalance just above. So to me, that was expected. The reason for that is what I talk about pretty often, and that is obvious highs and lows. People that have missed the short on these very aggressive jobs, what they will be waiting for is very simply obvious highs and lows, which is once again why last week when I did a YouTube update, I took this high and not these highs. That's because we had two very obvious highs in my opinion that people wanted to short. The first one was that high and the second one was these highs. Okay, so that's why at first I took this high and not this high, and then I said that if we broke above this high, I didn't expect price to break back above these highs, because at this point it would have been fairly easy for people that have missed this massive short to just wait for the retracement, the swing failure pattern, and in my opinion that just would have been too much of a gift to the people who missed the short. It didn't really make sense to get it. Okay, and that's why, I mean, sometimes when you see these imbalances, you have to put market narrative over it. It wasn't that much of an important imbalance in my opinion. It's just when, again, this is not hindsight. We gave the 7 last Thursday. You know, it was obvious that we were going to leave some pretty obvious highs behind, and that's what I talked about inside the YouTube update, which we had done on Thursday. Or it was on Wednesday. No, I think it was on Thursday. So not a problem, not filling this 12-hour imbalance. To me, there's nothing surprising about that. And yeah, okay. If you have any more questions about imbalances, of course, let me know. Okay, so now I think we can move on to the analysis, what we can expect next. So first of all, we do have a CME gap. However, let's see where the gap comes in. So the gap comes in. Is it there? Should be there, right? 930. Let me check. Yeah, 930. Okay. So that would be your CME gap on Bitcoin. However, I don't think we fill it. I think that last week, as you know, I wanted to see the CME gap fill because it was a fairly big one. But this week, as it looks like we have started a big trend, I don't think it makes sense to go back for the fill of the CME gap. That would be my my main guess. So you could take this and just mark it out at CME gap. Very unlikely to get filled. That's like if you guys want a bit of a side note for levels. I would be extremely surprised if we fill this one. Now, if we do, it would offer very good short positions, maybe somewhere above these highs, because as long as we don't break $74,000, I would not expect the low to be in at all. In my opinion, we are not even close to putting in a low. So you can mark this out, very unlikely to get filled. Does it mean that you want to short right here? Of course not. You don't short the drops. You short the pumps. You short the pumps. You short the pumps. You don't short the drops. So right now, no short position. If you want to be aggressive on the longs, I mean, you could play off of a front shot of this low, which everyone will be shorting for the break. It's a risky long, but it's just not worth it in my opinion, right? The trend is bearish. We're going to move much lower in my opinion. And I would just hold off on the longs for a while for now. Maybe not a while. We could wait. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what forms below. But for now, I would hold off on the long. So what levels we have below the CME gap? Let's see. So I would first take the midpoint of the weekly because it is an imbalance on Binance. So let me see where this comes in. So 82.3. I don't like this level though. 82.3. Then we have this low. I think we will get a fake out back just above this low. I think that's possible. So for now, I will start with these two levels. 3-day nothing. Daily. Okay, I think I would remove this. I move the weekly midpoint and take this one. So 81.3. I would say that I prefer this level. Let's put 81.4. 12 hour. Okay, that would be around the midpoint of the 12 hour. It's getting hard. So we have the open of this candle. This is what I would take for now as a first resistance. You can remove that low. $81,100. That would be the first big resistance in my opinion, right? We would have the fake out back inside of this low in my opinion, because I'm pretty sure that if we get a pump like this, then a lot of people will be thinking that this is a reclaim of that low and they will start to open long positions with their stop losses below this low. So I think that would be a very nice fake out for a continuation lower. However, if we break above this, then it becomes much more likely that we will fill the CME gap. Okay, so for now, as long as we remain below 81.1, very unlikely that this gap gets filled. However, if we pump and break above this level, that's when you could look for the fill of the CME gap. And then, of course, at this point, we could see what happens. So to the upside, that's what I would outline. I think I'm happy with that to the upside. Will we have any other conference? I don't think so. Yeah, there's no way. There is no way. So the point of control is also on the CME gap, which is actually pretty nice. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I would outline to the upside. Keep an eye on this anchored view up as well. I think it could come in as a nice confluence at 81.1. If we pump tomorrow, we could get something like this, a double bottom, a pump, and then a rejection to the downside. I wouldn't mind this at all. I wouldn't mind this. Yeah, on the lower time frame, I think I'm very happy with that scenario. Of course, it doesn't have to play out because overall, as I said, I would like to leave the CME gap behind. So the shallower the retrace is, the better. But that would be your level of resistance, regardless of the retracement. Now, to the downside, this is where we can start to look at higher time frame scenarios. First target, very easy. You go on the weekly. It would be the fill of this weekly imbalance. That would be my first target. $68,000. This one is going to get reached fairly easily in my opinion. Okay. So mark this as a first major target for the drop. Does this give us a low? Again, very unlikely in my opinion. Why? Because it is too early to form a low, just in my view. Of course, if you disagree, you can disagree. But I think we need at least 3 months before we form a low. So that's why this level, as it is so close to price, even though it is a first major target, I wouldn't see this as a major support. The bigger levels, where would they come? That is where I'll have to put in a bit more work. Oh, we have this. Just come back below that low. $58,000. Then if we get this, this is where I will start considering, I mean, maybe not lows. Of course, I mean, it will be time to start looking at lows because we want to catch the reversal to the upside. We don't want to be perma bears. But I like this one. So 58 for now, I'm going to remove it because it's a bit too far away. What I will do is the same thing that I did before. So where did I put this? That was on Binance. So I think I want to outline my plan on Binance. Let's go over to Binance right there. Okay, that would be your first target. First target, low likelihood of low, or we can say of bottom. Okay. But then the second target would be that low that we just talked about. Let me go on the 3-day. Okay, let me go on the daily. We have this, okay, we have this one. So I am going to take that low. Okay. And that will be your second target. Second target. And that would be good place, in my opinion, guys, not financial advice, good place to consider spot buys. Okay, I'm happy with that. And then how we could play around this, we take this low. I think we're gonna get a fake bounce at some point. Where does it come? It could be here to either fill the gap or 81k, but then if we drop, we could do something like this where we range a bit here to trap people, probably retest that low, or maybe get a bit of a fake out above and then get a short move to the downside. We will get a first consolidation at some point, in my opinion. It's just a bit too early for me to see sideways price action. I think this trend has just started, so we do need a bit of more impulsive price action than a bit of sideways movement. So that's why I am happy with that plan. You can take 81k, move into 81, drop towards 68, put a bit of a sideways range. Okay. And then continue to the downside. And that's where, of course, we can start to look for spot buys, at least for myself, not financial advice. Why am I constantly saying that? We do have some questions. I think that's good enough of a plan. I'm very happy with it. The first plan, once again, it was beautiful. So let me read some questions. Everything is good. Okay, very good recap. What do you think before the drop? Thank you. Precious metals. Okay, we will look at precious metals because we did have a very good prediction. Not prediction, but I had a level on silver that I will show you. I mean, I don't need to show you it. You guys know I had this level for a while. Would you expect a low? We just covered this. You won't buy spot BTC. I think I'm gonna look to buy spot Ethereum. I'm gonna be looking at Ethereum. We do have a wickless down there. This one looks fairly interesting. We have a wickless daily candle. So take this out. That would be my first target. $1,800. But I will be looking at Ethereum. Solana, once again. we are heading into $100. I've been talking about this for a long time. Yes, we front ran my resistance, but you can see I wanted to see the last bounce into resistance to see that massive reversal to the downside. Guess what happened? We got the last bounce. Yes, I got front run, but once again, the idea was extremely good. We got the final bounce. We got the reversal, and we are now taking out. We have actually taken out $100. So Solana, once again, expecting lower prices. Mm, 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 mm. You won't buy spot answer. And what about what about Sailor? Well, we did talk about Sailor before, and what I said was that some people do trust his company. Some people that I personally respect don't think that Sailor will get liquidated. I'm not of that view. I would like to liquidate Sailor. I could be wrong, of course. I'm not an expert on this company, and I'm really not interested in becoming an expert on this company. I think it's a very bad company that you want to avoid at all costs. There's just no point in buying this company over Bitcoin. To me, it makes no sense. So hopefully they go. I don't want to say hopefully, that's a bit that's too rude, but I would find it better for the market for Bitcoin if Sailor goes bankrupt. And we are now hovering above his average price, which is at $75,000. And that's one of the reasons why I strongly believe that we will take out $74,000, because in order to create the most amount of FOMO possible, you want to drop below his average price, which is $75,000. And then when people start talking about him getting liquidated, this is when you can start to look for bottoms, okay, which would be, in my opinion, a first good level around $60,000. Okay, so yes, I still heavily dislike this company. I think it's one of the worst companies on the stock market. Will I be right on Sailor getting liquidated, or will he not be liquidated? I don't really care, but once again, in my view for the market, it would be better if this stock just goes to zero. So we can look, I think do you guys want me to cover Ethereum? It's just the same thing as Bitcoin. I wanted to see lower prices. One setup that I saw was a fake out above this high. It didn't happen, but still we got the drop on Ethereum. What was this level? That was an old level. So yeah, we got the drop on Ethereum just like Bitcoin, so nothing surprising there. Of course, at this point, you don't want to buy this level at all, simply because, at least personally, I expected and still expect much lower price on Bitcoin. So Ethereum, I can start to clean up my chart as well. I just want to say for the highs on ETH, I mean, just like Bitcoin, we had this resistance and we had this resistance. So that was beautiful. And now I can start to clean up my chart because it's getting a bit too messy. Let me go in there. Nope. Remove this, 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 this. We can look at daily open. It's not important. I just like to keep it up to date. And yeah, that would be my first target on ETH, $1,800. Someone asked why ETH and not Bitcoin, just because I believe that ETH has a much bigger potential as an investment. If Ethereum goes back up and breaks back above this double top at $5,000, I do believe that it will go towards at least $8,000. So that's why when you look at a buy, for example, at $1,800, let's just call it $2,000, $2,000 to $8,000, that's a 4x. For Bitcoin to 4x, it would have to go to $200,000. Even though I believe this will happen, I just think Ethereum has a lot of potential, just because this consolidation reminds me a lot of silver, which we will cover in a bit. Just a quick thing, guys. We had the resistance up there on the log scale. If you guys have been watching the live streams, you know I didn't touch this area at all. You can go back and watch every single live that we made. This area has been there forever, and I did warn you about it. That's all I'm gonna say. We will talk more about silver in a bit, but this consolidation on Ethereum, once again, it reminds me a lot on Ethereum, it reminds me a lot of silver. You know, it's just a lot of sideways price action. And when it broke out, you got that massive move to the upside. So Ethereum, in my view, is the best altcoin out there. So I'm gonna look to put some money into it. I don't think this coin is done. If it is, okay, I will lose my investment, but I don't think this coin is done. Coins that I am much less confident in would be Solana, for example. I just don't trust these coins. That's just the way that I am. I like to invest in very safe assets. I don't think Ethereum is the safest, but I think it's good enough. That's my point. So that's why I'm looking at Ethereum over Bitcoin, is just because I believe that it could outperform any expectations if we break back above this double top. Okay. Let's see. Oh, okay, nothing actually. So we could be done with crypto. We have a bit of a level on Bitcoin at 81.1. I would still expect lower prices. I am still in my short, which is once again my third biggest win ever. And I mean, I think it still has a lot of potential to go lower. I am probably going to take some more profits on it tomorrow, depending on the price action, especially if we break back above this high. I will take more profits on it, but yeah. What about XRP? Bro, XRP. Just, man, just, if you want to be safe, just avoid these coins, man. It's just, if you want to be safe, you avoid every single altcoin except Ethereum. That's the way that I look at it. And I like crypto. It's not like I don't like crypto. I just don't trust any altcoin. And even Ethereum, even though I am looking to invest in it, it's not like I am super trustful in Ethereum. I do see the potential. I don't think it will fail, but I do have this small apprehension. That's all I'm going to say. Now we can move on to the fun part. I mean, Bitcoin was extremely fun. I have to admit, Bitcoin was extremely fun. I can hide this now. Just actually, I'm going to keep it for the live stream, but I have too many levels, I think. Let me hide the yearly open. It's just too many levels right now. Okay. I think I can delete this as well. There's no point in keeping it. Actually, I want to keep it. Okay. So we can move on to silver. Guys, all I'm going to say about silver, watch the live stream that we did. It was either last week or 2 weeks ago. What did I tell you about silver? This is exactly what I told you. If you don't believe me, go back, open the lives that we did and skip to the part where I talked about silver. Go on the weekly chart. What has happened to silver every single time in history? You bump straight to the upside, and guess what happened? What happens in 1 week? The week opens at 47 and it closes at 35. So that's a $12 drop, which in percentage would be almost a 30% drop, which is of course massive to get in 1 week. What happened on the next all-time high, which was this one? We got a straight pump to the upside. We opened the week at $48 and we closed the week at $35. Once again, a drop of about 30%. Okay, that would be 25% in 1 week, but still massive. So what I told you last time we talked about silver is that I still have my area around, it was from $109 to $119, okay, 118 to be exact. As you can see, if you go on the 12-hour, we moved into it. We had a 12-hour imbalance. If you trade imbalances with silver, you can see, I mean, I need to zoom in a lot to show you the candle. This is a purple candle. I'm not sure if you guys can see well, but even on the 1 hour, you can see if you waited for the imbalances, first high, no imbalance, second high, no imbalance, third high, you have 2 hourly imbalances. This marked the top. You got a 12-hour close below our area, and from there, it is just history. What happened in the week? Well, the open wasn't at the high, but as you can see, in 1 week, silver dropped from 120 all the way down to $75, a drop of 36%. So nothing is abnormal about this move. Anyone telling you that this was unexpected, it's news, it's whatever, dude, you cannot go back in history and look at candles. Look at this candle. Look at this candle. What wouldn't have been normal with a voice crack, what would not have been normal would have been to put in an all-time high on silver and then to get a slow retracement and then maybe a big drop right here. This would have been abnormal. This move for silver is normal. If you want to accept it or not, I don't freaking care. I told you multiple times I was selling silver on this pump, not shorting but selling spots. So physical silver, I was selling on this pump, and what I told you, I don't care if I'm early. When you make profits, you get out of the markets and you move on to a new investment. Some people were calling for $200. Some people were saying this time is different. Some people were even saying technical analysis will not work this time. All I can say, I have had this level 4 months on silver. Okay? And there's no way you can prove me wrong, because if you go back in time, this is the exact same level that we have had every single live stream. Is it surprising that we got this move? Not really, because once again, silver has done this every single time in history. So either you learn from history and you make money and you sell on the pumps and you be smart about it, or you want to say that this time is different, you buy the top, or even if you bought somewhere at the lows, you just don't want to sell because you're stubborn and you think this time is different. Well, guess what? Sucks to be you. This time is not different. But I'm done yapping about it. This is the prediction. Could this be a wave 4 as I drew right there? I mean, could this be 1, 2, 3? This is the wave 4, and then we will move up in wave 5. Purely looking at Elliott waves, this is possible, but it's not worth it to bet on this, because the pattern, which is the massive drop in 1 week against a massive resistance that we have had for a while on silver, this pattern is much stronger than Elliott waves. Okay? So if silver goes higher, guess what? I don't freaking care. I sold my silver. I locked in profits. I'm gonna move on to a new investment. Because guess what happens? Silver goes down literally for years. This all-time high was put in, why am I taking this? This all-time high was put in freaking 2011. Do you want to hold an asset that will make a new all-time high in the next 14 years? If that's what you want to do with your money, go ahead and do it. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm just sharing my analysis with you. You don't have to follow me, but I have been right on a lot of things. Not to brag about it, but once again, I'm just trying to help you guys. Everything that we do is for free. So I have no reason to say like, join us, I'm right or whatever. It's free. I'm trying to help you. This area has been on my chart for literally a month. We did talk about it, and we did outline the patterns of silver offering massive drops in 1 week. And last point, what happens after you get these massive drops? You get a bit of a sharp retracement. However, this marks the all-time high before you go down for years on end. So if the pattern repeats, you definitely could get retracement to the upside on silver. But overall, that would have marked the all-time highs, and silver will go down for years. How low will it go? I don't care, because it will just take too long to make a new all-time high. Talk to me about silver once again in 10 years. Right now, I'm not interested in this asset. I'm joking. Do you think silver has stopped? Well, I just talked about it. If you follow history, this is how silver puts in all-time highs. Now, again, by looking at Elliott waves, it is possible that we still have a wave 5 to the upside. However, once again, we talked about it. Is it worth it to bet on this being a wave 4 than a wave 5? I don't think the return is great enough to hold on to this idea. You could hold on to it just because it really looks like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. That would be your wave 4 and then wave 5. However, for myself, I think that the pattern of hitting a massive resistance and getting a massive drop, this just lines up with history. So to me, okay, this is just my opinion. It's time to move on to another asset. If silver moves to $200, I don't freaking care. I have made money on silver. I have sold it. It could go to $1,000 tomorrow. I don't care. Guess what I will do? I will go to another chart, look for better opportunities, and make more money on this new asset. I don't like buying or holding on to assets that are massively overextended. And especially if you looked at the sentiment around silver, it was pure euphoria. So for me, again, I just prefer to look at other assets. That's the way that I invest. So is there anything else you guys want to ask? Also, actually, the stock market, I do want to quickly talk about the stock market. Guess which area we had? Once again, it was this area. It was the same Fib pocket, I believe. Was it this one? Yup, it was this one on the log scale. It was just above, and on the normal scale, it's right there. But you can see we do have a pretty big area on the stock market, so it is time to be cautious. If we get a reversal, we still have that ugly low that has not been taken out at $6,500, which would mark a drop of about 7% from here. Of course, we could make another high because this area is fairly big. But overall, I think if the stock market wants to drop, as outlined in this scenario, this is where it should drop from. If you break above 7K and maintain above it, then yeah, that would look pretty strong. But if the stock market wants to retrace, it would be from this area, in my humble opinion. Will you ever buy gold? Not before 10 years. Not before 10 years, man. I need these assets to drop back down, let them form a base just like it did before, let them form bases after big drops, and this is when you can start to buy gold and silver, in my opinion. For now, I've said it, I'm not interested in these assets anymore. Gold can go to $50,000, silver can go to $5,000. Okay, they're just overextended, it's unsustainable, and it has never done this in history. That's what silver does. It runs like crazy, and then it drops back down for years. Gold, the exact same thing. It runs like crazy, and then it drops back down for years. So personally, I like to look at history. If the same pattern repeats, we have got the crazy run, and now it is time to drop back down for years. So for a couple of years now, I will not be looking at gold and silver. So looks like we don't have any more questions. I think we have covered everything. So for the altcoins, again, just like Bitcoin, I would expect lower on Ethereum. Ideally, the first target would be $1,800. When and if we drop there, of course, at this point, we can see, is it a good time to start buying, or is it still too early? That is still to be determined because, well, we haven't got the drop yet. Bitcoin, same thing. I have a first target at, let me put this on the higher time frame because I'm not going to keep this on my chart. Nope. A higher time frame. Yeah. Okay. So that would be my higher time frame view for Bitcoin. Again, if anyone is new here, I don't do hindsight. This was given at the start of the year. Fake out above $94,000, get a reversal to the downside, break below $74,000. This scenario has now fully played out. We got the fake out above 94 and we got the massive reversal to the downside. The first massive target is still to get taken out, which is these lows at $74,000. The first potential support will come in around $68,000, which could offer a bit of a range before the last leg to the downside. And at this point, we can see how low this goes. Will it be towards 60s or the high 50s, or will it be much lower? Once again, it remains to be determined. I cannot really predict where a low will be put in. On the lower time frames, I would say that it is unlikely to fill the CME gap, at least in my opinion. Once again, if we fill it, I don't care because I would just open new short positions, so that would be amazing short opportunities. However, to be realistic, I think we will leave the CME gap behind. We could get a pump towards 81.1 possibly. That is a very nice area, especially if we get the confluence of the anchored view up. So you can keep an eye on this anchored view up. So that would be a very interesting level. However, if we break above it, this is when you can look for the fill of the CME gap. And after that, of course, I can make a new update outlining when we look for the rejection from there, or will it be from a bit higher? Right now, it doesn't really matter because I don't think we get the fill. I think we go lower. So that's the lower time frames. The higher time frames, I talked about it. Ethereum, same thing. Expect lower prices. First target would be $1,800. Silver, we gave you this area from 109, let's call it, to 118. Offered a fantastic rejection. This looks like a top to me, not because we got a massive job, but because historically, when silver tops out, this is exactly how it jumps every single time. So nothing abnormal there. And yeah. Any more questions? So precious metals, okay. Would you ever buy gold? Do you think precious metals correcting suggests that there will come a risk off environment? Hmm. For a short time, yes. I mean, on the medium time frame, so you could say over the next 2 months, for example, yes, it is possible. However, on the higher time frames, when you get a jump in precious metals, it actually means that this money will rotate into other assets. Okay, so all this money that was piling up into silver and not going into the stock market, as you can see, the stock market hasn't been doing anything. So has Bitcoin, it hasn't been doing anything. This money, in my opinion, will be rotating over to the stock market and also over to Bitcoin. So over the short term, yes, this could cause a bit of fear. And anyways, I am expecting lower on Bitcoin. However, on the higher time frames, when these assets drop, this means that investors want risk, and that's why they're not buying these assets because these are considered safe havens. So no, on the longer term, you want to see these assets drop if you want to see healthy bull markets on stocks and on crypto and in crypto, sorry. Do you think there will be okay risk off? So precious metals bear market? Possibly, yes. Again, purely looking at Elliott waves, which I don't like because of the pattern, we could get one more leg to the upside. However, overall, I think it is time for the precious metals to just take a break for a couple of years because that's what they have been doing every single time in history. I can't be asked with this market. Every single person on Twitter was so freaking bullish, it was annoying. That's why I sold my silver. I told you guys I was selling silver. I didn't care if I was early. Guess what happened? We hit my resistance and we got a massive drop. So a new gold all-time high won't come until next decade? I believe so, yes. I think gold, once again, guys, once again, we could make one more high. Extremely unlikely, but it is possible just by looking at the Elliott waves. But yes, overall, it's done. Okay, so it's either this or one more high, but for spot buys, I think you want to ignore these assets for the next, at least, I would say 7 years. And again, guys, that's just my view. I could be wrong, I could be right, but I have told you before, I don't care about being wrong or right. What I want to do is going back to silver. I want to buy low. I want to sell high. I don't care if I catch the bottom. I don't care if I catch the top. I care about making money and then pivoting over other assets that are much less expensive, like, for example, potentially Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course, some stocks if we finally get a nice pullback in the stock market. So yeah, I don't care about being right or wrong, but my view is that I don't want to look at these assets for the next at least 7 years. Okay? Do you think $35-40 an ounce is an interesting level for silver? Oof, $40. Wow. Is that possible? Hmm. Let's see. I mean, will you, I mean, 100, no, we're not gonna get 100%. 92%, dude. 75. Wow, these are big jobs. I didn't even, I mean, I guess I realized it, but I never looked at it that way. Let's say we take 50%. Yeah, I think we could definitely go towards $50 at least. So yeah, I guess if I say $50 at least, then 35 to $40 is definitely possible. Yeah, that should make sense. Hmm. Let's say we make one more high and you take 75%. Then yeah, even in this case, we would still look at $50. Yeah. So yeah, I think over the long term, I will be looking for a retest of that high $50, and then, it will be in a very long time. We can see how it behaves. It will probably just go sideways like this, and then go back up after freaking 500 years. So yeah, we can talk about levels, but once again, guys, if it takes so long to drop, I don't think we need to outline these levels right now. It just makes no sense, right? Roy, for new spot buys, yes, of course, yes, of course. Any asset that drops, let's say, below 50% of its all-time high, so you take 50% of 120, that would be $60. If you want to buy silver on the long term, anything below $60 will be good, because when you buy 50% down, your return to the upside will be 100%. Okay, so you drop 50%, but the return to the upside will be 100%, which is of course very big for investments. Now, this is when you have to start thinking about time frames. If we drop towards $50 in the next 2 months, do you want to buy silver in the next 2 months? Probably not, because every time in history, it takes multiple years to bottom out. So we could, for example, let's say we get a bit of a deep retracement towards 190, and then we come back down, and then we go back up, and then we come back down, and then we go sideways. Then yes, at this point, I would say the price doesn't even matter, because when you get a big drop, it starts to go sideways. This is when you want to start accumulating silver and gold again. Until then, I'm not looking at these assets. Thank you for the live. I'm out of questions. Well, thanks to you for the questions. I always enjoy them. You make the live much more fun. So thanks a lot. So if you're out of questions, I think we've outlined everything. I think we have outlined everything. Okay, guys. Spec lower on Bitcoin. Don't chase the long positions. And this is what I will end it on. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for all the live chats. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for all the kind messages. What else? Thank you. Dude, I'm so bad at ending live stream. So I will just end it there. If you guys could leave a like on the live stream, of course, it would be massively appreciated. Once again, everything that we do is for free. Even if you want to join our Discord, the Discord is free. So just a simple like, once again, just a simple like would be massively appreciated. And with that said, I will end the live right there with the shittiest outro ever. And I will see you all tomorrow morning. Last question, the XY. I did want to talk about the DXY. Some people have left already, but it is what it is. The XY is going back up. My view hasn't changed. Like, the DXY is going back up. Okay, we took out the low again, but guess what happened? You took out the low, and you got a very strong recovery to the upside. We talked about this last live stream. Everyone is writing off the dollar, saying that the dollar is done. Just look at the chart. Is it that bad? Low, higher low, higher low, higher low, higher low. When you want to buy a new house, what do you need? You need dollars. When you want to buy a new car, what do you need? You need dollars. When you want to buy coffee, what do you need? You need dollars. What do central banks need the most? They need dollars. The petrodollar, what do countries need to buy oil? They need dollars. The dollar will go back up. That is my view. You can disagree, you can agree, I don't care. This is my view. Even technically speaking, once again, we got a quick drop below that low, and as you can see on the weekly, we failed to close below these lows. So to me, I would still expect higher prices on the dollar. Nothing has changed. It's the most important fiat in the world right now, and will be for a very long time, at least for the next 10-20 years. So for now, I think writing off the dollar and saying that it will drop much lower, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so that's what I'm going to say about the dollar. My view hasn't changed, and it's not going to change for a long time. You need to buy coffee, you need dollars. And if you need to buy a house, you need dollars. So We covered the dollar. Thank you for the question, because I did want to talk about it. Thank you for reminding me. So last time, if you guys could leave a like, that would be massively appreciated. I would wish you an amazing rest of the evening, rest of the weekend. Take some time off, chill until tomorrow. You will have new trading opportunities. As long as you didn't chase the longs on this job, even if you're not in shorts, you're doing very well, because if you're not losing money, this is the number one rule in trading. Preserve your capital until the big opportunities come, you capitalize on them, and then you make a lot of money. And with that said, I am done here. I will see you all tomorrow morning inside the Discord. If anyone is new and you want to join, it is free. You can find the link either in the description or inside our website, crypto.com, or just message me on Twitter or whatever. Okay. Goodbye, everyone, and see you.